This is titled Close Encounter. Hello, I was told this is the place to send stories like mine. This happened back around '03, but I'll never forget it as long as I live. I was thinking about the time when they found that strange metal monolith out in the desert in southern Utah, before it was known to be just a quote art installation, end quote, or whatever. And it got me all fired up and hopeful for strange, otherworldly experiences again. It brought me back to the time I had a pretty close encounter of my own up in the high woods near Duchesne, Utah. You can choose to believe me or not, that's your choice. But I state for the record that I'm telling the truth, and this really happened, and I remember it clearly, and I'll never forget that night. I'd come to a cabin that was partially owned by members of my family. It was way back up in the mountains above Duchesne, in a place I believe was called Argyle Canyon. It was a long, steep, switchback dirt road, and even in dry summer conditions, the road was dangerous to drive, especially for old shitty citymobiles like we had in those days. And from time to time, my old sputtering '86 Toyota Corolla wouldn't want to pull the final hill and needed a push from a couple of friends, which no one liked doing, but hey, I drove. Now get out and push. We had arrived around dusk and began to haul our stuff into the cabin for the night. We had some cheap beer, a couple of guitars, a couple of bottles of whiskey to enjoy, and plans to have ourselves a good old-fashioned country blowdown. I needed to grab my sleeping bag essentials from the car, so I headed back out to where I had parked my jalopy when something caught my eye. There's a light, a very bright light, shining down at the bottom of the valley that was slowly moving through the trees. It was incredibly bright for being so far away, but I dismissed it as a truck or some campers out in the middle of nowhere doing their thing. That is, until the light turned blue, bright blue, and got even brighter. Then turned to red, and then turned to yellow, and then green, and back to bright, well, white again. What the hell? Now that's not a car and that's not a camper unless he's got a 1,000,000-watt flashlight down there, or a very powerful spotlight with colored lenses. Maybe it was some of those raver kids looking for a hidden place to throw their dance party at. But how'd they get a lighting rig in there? There's no roads to this location. It was in the middle of the damn woods. I kept trying to run explanations so I could get comfortable with it and wrote it off, but I just couldn't. Just then, a little bit of fear jolted through me, and suddenly I couldn't take my eyes off the thing. It almost felt like it knew I was watching it. But I broke away, quickly dismissed it, as my imagination grabbed my gear and quickly headed back to the cabin. The party began and good times were being had. I was a few beers deep and decided to move the party outside. And we decided to move the party outside. We built a big, nice fire in the fire pit, playing some tunes and enjoying conversation when again, something caught my eye. This time it's high up over the ridge. It's that same light, big, bright, changing colors. Then, as if it knew I saw it, it slowly sunk back down below the ridge line and disappeared from view, only to come up over the ridge on the opposite side of the valley and do the same routine again, up and slowly back down. Now it was getting real, and having a little liquid courage flowing through my veins, I was now very intrigued. But once again, it floated out of sight and seemed to just vanish. My friends told me I was seeing a plane, nothing else, but I wasn't so sure. It seemed to move with its own will and intelligence, and planes don't flash all sorts of random colors like that. But okay, screw it, back to our whiskey. A couple hours later, we were all pretty much a few sheets to the wind when I noticed a light off in the distance, and this time it was very close, maybe a couple hundred yards away from the cabin. It stayed far enough. It stayed far enough away behind the trees that you could never make out exactly what it was. But all you could see was a large, extremely bright ball of colored light that was moving slowly through the trees. White, yellow, green, blue, red, slowly moving through the forest and coming closer to the cabin all the time. It seemed to be headed right toward us. It began moving faster, and it sent a shock of fear through me. Strangely, it was almost like it could feel that fear and instantly started to back off. Being good and shit-faced, I decided it was time to find out what this thing was. So I mustered up my alcohol courage, got up and said, "I'm not afraid. I'm going to go see what this thing is." I started charging into the woods towards the bright-colored lights. As I got closer, it stopped moving, and I could almost make out what it was when it completely disappeared. Just like that, poof, gone. Now I'm standing in the middle of the woods in nothing but pitch blackness. So, feeling annoyed, I shouted into the darkness, "I'm not afraid, come back, show yourself." And just as I said that, I heard a voice in my head say, "We're glad." And just at that same moment, my cousin JJ turned to me. I need a tree falling on me. Sorry. And just at that same moment, my cousin JJ turned his up towards me from the fire and said, "They're glad." I guess he meant turned his head up. That's weird. You can hear these big aspen trunks bonking at each other, the odd ones. Pretty sure that's what that sound is. It was very eerie. I had not said anything about hearing that, and I didn't have time. It was all in an instant, yet he heard the same thing at the same time. It also wasn't really a voice, it was more like an instant thought transmission. Like a text message for your mind from some other dimension. Now I'm standing in the woods in the blackness, and even over the whiskey, I started to feel very nervous. Man, am I vulnerable right now, drunk away from the group and talking to the darkness. Suddenly I realized that this was probably a pretty bad idea. What if it was some kind of an alien being? Is it hungry for stupid drunk dude? Because I would have a great meal right then, or maybe the next abduction victim, only to reappear as a carcass with my eyes cored out and my anus missing. Who knows? You never know. So I started crackling back to the group in great haste. The light never came back that night, and we all eventually passed out for the night, safe in our sleeping bags within the comforting closeness of walls. I'll never forget that encounter. It didn't feel evil or bad, just creepy. That primal fear of the unknown, and this was certainly the unknown. The woods up there were always strange, though. It had a weird anxiety-like vibe, and it always felt like you're being watched by something from the tree line. I don't think anyone would have really been surprised if a big smelly Sasquatch come crackling out of the bushes somewhere. It was just that kind of place. So, did I have an encounter? Or am I just completely nuts? I've seen similar balls of light while out camping before, but this was the only time one ever came close or seemed to take interest in us.